and welcome to this week's edition of the Dr. Hank Show. Now, the Dr. Hank Show is all about emotional intelligence, and I have in my hand an early release of my new book titled EQ is for Everyone. Now, it's not on sale yet, so don't rush down to the local stores and don't go online to Amazon.com because it's not available for sale just yet. Now, it will be within the next week or two. So what I'm holding in my hand now is my review copy. But I'm so excited about it because I think that this book, this is the one that will bring a lot more clarity around emotional intelligence than we've had in a long time. Because a lot of people ask the question, well, we hear a lot about emotional intelligence, but what is emotional intelligence? Well, you can Google that term and you can come up with a definition, but it doesn't tell you how to use emotional intelligence or who uses emotional intelligence or where it's used. Okay? So this book, EQ is for Everyone, not only does that, but more. It gives us a look at how emotional intelligence benefits all of us. And it also has some examples and some I'm really excited about it. But my excitement is going to be tempered today because I have an exciting guest. She's been on the show several times before. And, well, I think what she has to share, what she has to talk about, what she has to offer is so great that her being on the show just one time just wasn't enough. At least that's how I feel about it. Because one of the things that really, really touches us emotionally, in addition to love and stuff like that, is money. Whether we have it or whether we don't have it. In either case, it touches us. And we're quite emotional about it. And when I say quite emotional, meaning it conjures up different emotions depending on what we do with it. So the person that I'm talking about, that's our guest today is Pamela McCoy. Now, like I said, Pamela's been on the show before, but she always has some great information to share with us. So, good morning, Pamela. Are you there?
I am.
Well, fantastic, fantastic. It is good to hear your voice as always. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you
No,
so much for having me again.
well, just a minute ago, I was saying that how people get emotional, and let me take that back. It's not how people get emotional, but the different emotions that people have around money, whether they have money or whether they don't have money. There's always some emotions flowing around that, and it's one of those topics that I think really needs to be explored or talked about in ways in which people can find better solutions, probably than the solutions that they currently have around how to manage that. Now, last time that you were on the show, we were talking about not the money that you make, but the money that you keep,
Right.
that you take home.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like it's right up your alley. It sounds like what you focus on. So what's the difference between the money that we make and the money that we keep?
Well, in short term, I guess, my focus or emphasis is always on the money that they're taking home. And I say that because many folks at their place of employment, there are 401ks and different programs for their future, their investments,
Mm-hmm.
and those monies come off the top. And so their company might have a plan manager, if you will, who manages those monies. And so I
Okay.
focus on the monies that they take home, their personal money management. And so that's the differentiation between the two of us. So they need that financial advisor or that project or plan manager as it relates to the monies off the top. But then they need someone like me to help them manage the piece that they take home, that budgeting piece, and helping them, buying the groceries one paycheck to the next, and getting gas in the car, and emergency funds and spending plans and those type of things is what I help them with.
Right, fantastic. That sounds like what a lot of us can use help with now. You mentioned financial planner, and we're going to call that, a career, kind of a person that does that as a part of their work, So what would you title what you do, and how did you get into it?
Kind of fell into it by trade. My background, as I mentioned before, is I've actually now have almost had 30 years in the industry, in credit card, banking, all things kind of on that side of the business, from underwriting to the customer service to what we call as the back end, which is the collections, recovery, and fraud end of the business. And through that experience, it kind of led me to what I do, because what I was finding is a lot of consumers really didn't have a foundational understanding of how credit and money actually works. Even though it's what we do every day in terms of transacting, they just didn't have a clear understanding of how it really works. And because they didn't have that understanding, that's how they ended up in collections, in debt, having difficulty finding their way out, because they really didn't have a clear understanding on how they got in.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, then, as we would say, praises be for you. Out to you for being one of those individuals that will be helpful to us, to help, provide some insight as to how to deal with or manage or work with the money that we bring home. I didn't say the money that we keep. I said the money that we bring home.
Absolutely.
Even though we might bring it home, we don't keep it. There are places that those dollars are pretty much targeted for. But let's just kind of talk about this from this perspective. Now that the 2017 tax season is behind us, okay, because we know that was a big focus for everyone for the last, 2-3 months,
right.
But now that that's behind us, now what?
Well, hopefully, your listeners didn't get large tax returns, although, historically, some kind of count on those large tax returns. And I think we talked a little bit about that in the last show when I was a guest, that ideally we don't want to get a large tax return. And the reason being, if we're getting large tax returns, ultimately what that means is that our withholdings aren't really where they need to be. We're giving Uncle Sam a large chunk of our money throughout the year, and we could have that money on our side of the table, if you will, and invest it. Because what happens at the end of the year when you're getting a large tax return, Uncle Sam is giving you the principal back. So if, say, your tax return is $3,000, you overpaid, if you will, taxes by that $3,000. So you're going to get that $3,000 back. But say you had that $3,000 on your side of the table for those same 12 months that Uncle Sam had it. You could have invested it in anything. And even if it was a nominal return, you would have had made money on that $3,000 versus just having the $3,000. And so ideally, that's what I want your listeners to kind of get, is we'll never get a utopic scenario where it's zero, where you're not getting any tax return and not owing anything. But you want to get as close to zero as possible, that you're getting a little bit back or only owing a little bit, because that means that you're keeping the bulk on your side and you're making good financial decisions, meaning you're investing it so you're making some money on your money while you do have it on your side.
Well, that sounds like, that makes a lot of sense, but I know there are a lot of people, they are really, really concerned about owing taxes. So therefore, they say it's better for them to have more taken out so that they can get that refund, which then becomes like a nice surprise or a nice dollar amount that they can use for something. They'd rather. But what I'm hearing from you is what you really would like to be be able to do is to get it as close to zero as possible, so
Mm-hmm.
that you're doing just the right things. Your money is going in the right places, and you're not overpaying, you're not underpaying. So, some nominal amount, a couple hundred
Right.
dollars one way or the other, sounds like what would be ideal.
Exactly. And the key to that is your mindset. And even if you were keeping that money throughout the year, I don't want them frivolously spending it. The idea is that you're investing it so that that money is making money for you. The same is if you did end up in that scenario where you did get the large tax return, let's not think of it as one of my clients once referred to it as taxmas. Like kids refer to Christmas. Let's not refer to it as that and go on the spending spree. Even at that, taking a bulk of that money or a significant portion and investing it even at that stage, that money is making money for you even at that point. It's really about the
Yeah,
mindset of not spending everything that I make. And when you come into large sums of money, not think of it as I'm still going to spend all of that today, that I need to take a portion of that money and put it away for tomorrow. Thinking about these emergency funds, thinking about investing, whether it's a college fund, some type of, stock, bond, mutual fund, or whatever. And that's where the role of the financial advisor comes in to help you decide where that money should go based on what your financial plan is.
yeah, yeah. On a previous show, you talked about the importance of spending plans and emergency funds and etc. And since you just mentioned it, then it just kind of triggered. Are there some other key financial related things that apply to everyone?
Absolutely. And one that's at the top of the list would be a will. And that, people don't want to think about death and the inevitable end, but that's going to come. And sometimes
Mm-hmm.
people even think, well, I'm not rich. I don't have millions of dollars, so I really don't need a will. But a will doesn't mean millions. A will means that I have assets, and assets is anything that you have that's of value to you, because everything that's of value is not necessarily financial value. It could be a family heirloom that's of value. And so, I often tell my clients, it doesn't matter if you have two nickels to rub together. They're your two nickels. And so you really should decide where those two nickels go at that time of your passing. In the state of Florida,
Mm-hmm.
particularly, if you don't decide, the state of Florida will step in to decide. And I can assure you, the state's going to do what's in the state's best interest, not necessarily what's in the best interest of your family. And so
Yeah.
that's why a will is important, and not just to have the will written, but it has to be executed. And so that's a document that everyone should have. And it's really, really, really important if you have minor children, because you want to designate and decide what happens to the
Mm-hmm.
future and the life of your children. Who's going to raise your children? Who's going to raise them the way you would want them to be raised? Those kinds of things. You need to designate those individuals so that that doesn't become an issue, and your kids might end up being raised by someone that would not be of your choosing. So all of those kind of things, that's what a will does. It spells out clearly what your wishes are, not what other people's opinions or thoughts of what your wishes were, but it spells out what your wishes are. And so a will is very important. It's not just about the money. It could be your heirlooms, it could be your children. It's things that are of value to you. So that would be
Wait a
a
minute now. No, I'm hearing that, and I hear, and I want not only me to be clear, but I want our listeners to be clear. You're saying that the will is not only just about money; it could be about heirlooms, and you mentioned children. How do children figure in there? Because they're not property, or are they considered property when someone passes
Well, they're not
and
property,
they're
but I
not
mean,
of
in
legal
terms
age?
of trust, you can do wills and trust. There's all kinds of legal documents in terms of, and whether you need a trust as well, in addition to a will, all of that, your attorney will help you distinguish what all you need. but your will spells out exactly what you want to happen upon your passing. And so it's going to talk about your physical assets. It's going to talk about what happens to your children as well. So yes, who's going to raise your children? All of that. Who's going to get custody? All of those things can be spelled out in your will. It's a legal and binding document if it is in fact executed. And so, I highly recommend that you speak to an attorney. And sometimes your place of employment, you might get legal services as a benefit at your place of employment. So, you need to check into that. And even if it's not free as a benefit, it might be at a reduced cost as a benefit of your employment. So, check into those things, because these are documents that you really need to have in place, and we all think and pray we're going to be here tomorrow, but things happen. And so you don't want to leave these things undone, and then, things end up not the way you want them to be. And as such, when you have these documents in place, you need to visit those. And even like your insurances, that's another set of documents that everyone should have. And when I say insurances, that would be your health insurances, your life insurances, your property insurances. If you own property, that would be your mortgage insurance. If you're renting, you should have renter's insurance. And again, don't take that lightly. Renter's insurance is for your content. The building where you're living, the apartment, the owner of the complex or the apartment or the condo or the townhouse, they have insurance to cover the building. You are the occupant, the lessor. You need to cover your content. So if the building burns down, they're covered for the building. Your content is not covered under their policy. And so you as the renter need insurance to cover your content. And it's not, the fire wasn't in my apartment. I didn't start it, so my stuff should be covered by somebody. It doesn't matter how or where the fire started. If you don't have insurance, you're not covered. And it's so saddening to see, and we've all seen it on the news where, you were at work or wherever and you come back, your apartment burned down, you lost everything, they have nothing, and they didn't have renter's insurance. And again, it's a nominal cost. And so, I tell everyone that I work with and have an opportunity to speak with, it just needs to be a line item in the budget. That's a couple meals, eating out. It just has to be. That's one of those must-haves, that you need to find a way to pay for the renter's insurance. It's less, it's a couple few $100s a year in the scheme of things. And again, depending on where your other insurances are, you might be able to bundle it to get some discounts. So if you're using the same insurance company for your car or what have you, you might be able to bundle and get even greater discounts for the renter's insurance. Check that out. Check around on a regular basis. So, annually you should check around for policy discounts.
Yeah, like I was saying, it may mean that you don't eat out a couple of times a week. Rather than eating out every night or every week, maybe you don't, and use some of those and direct it towards, coverage, the renter's insurance coverage or whatever type coverage that.
Absolutely. It's well worth those few dollars for that renter's insurance. And insurance is for that just in case. No one's hoping and wanting a fire or, and it may not be the fire. The fire might be in the apartment next door, but the water damage ends up ruining all your stuff. It
happens all the time.
Exactly. Or someone's bathtub overfloods, and ruins your, all kinds of things. Life happens. And so we're getting these insurances as a precaution just in case. And so the will, the insurances, the financial needs analysis, that's related to your future planning. A financial advisor will typically administer that. And that just kind of helps them build your roadmap to where you say you want to be in whatever timeline that you say you want to get there. And then they back into what do you need to be doing today to get to where you said you wanted to be at said point in the future. So that's what a financial needs analysis does. So,
Okay.
and then of course that leads right into, like everything else, setting goals. Once you kind of know this is where I want to go, you got to set a goal to get there, right?
Yeah. No, I noticed you had that in your book about focus and goal settings.
Absolutely.
So, where do we go with that? What are we focusing on, and what are we setting goals around? I mean, from the financial standpoint.
Well, in my book, Bonafide Bits, where inspiration and intellect collide with your finances, and your listeners can actually get a copy of that on my website, www.bonafidecc.com. I mentioned focus a couple different times in the book, mainly in the section speaking of evolving or change. But on page 40, and the book is kind of broken down, it gives you an inspiration and then gives you a life application and then a financial application. But on page 40 of the book, the inspiration says, "What you think, you manifest. So a man thinketh, he is or does. Thus, you become what you think about most." Another inspiration in that same vein would be, "Plow with your eyes on the fence post, like Paul. If we focus on Christ, we will plow a straight path and accomplish God's purpose in our lives." The life application of both of those inspirations is, your thoughts are the guiding force of everything in your life. Again, that mindset. That said, you must guard your thoughts. Imagine your life with putting Him first in your thoughts. If you do not know yourself, give it a try. I know you will be amazed. The financial application is, if you focus your thoughts on financial freedom and put in the work, again, you always got to put in the work. Becoming financially free is within your reach. You must speak it into existence. You must believe it. You must take action. Financial freedom will be yours. And remember, you can't be prepared for something while secretly believing it will not happen. So you got to stay focused.
Wow. And you say on your website you have, or people can just purchase a book via your website? What's your website again?
It's www.B as in boy, O as in October, N as in Nancy, A as in apple, the number 5, D as in dog, C as in cat, C as in cat.com.
Okay, thanks for that. And I understand that you have an upcoming seminar titled F5, Fueling Financial Fire for Females. Where will you be tying all these types of topics and more together? Tell me more about that.
Well, it's going to take place here in Tampa, Florida, at a venue here, and I'm so excited. And unfortunately, it's just females only, guys, so maybe next time we'll include the fellas. But we're focusing on the female and their finances this go round. And it's going to be a half-a-day seminar. So for all your female listeners out there, please, if you're in the local area, in the vicinity, so that includes, Orlando, Lakeland, Land O'Lakes, all of those surrounding areas, please come and join us. They can, again, go to the website, and that'll drive you to Eventbrite, or go directly to Eventbrite to purchase the tickets. And today is the last day, so it's a good day that I'm on today. Today is the last day for the fire sale or the flash sale. So the pre-sale, the tickets are only $59 today. So effective tomorrow, they're going to be $69, which is the early bird. So today they can get the tickets for $59. And for that $59, I mean, what a bargain. They get 30 years of experience, right?
Whoa.
They're going to get breakfast. They're going to get lunch. They're going to get activities. They're going to learn about spending plans and emergency funds. They're going to learn about the perils of procrastination so that they'll know how to avoid them. They're going to get fellowship. They're going to be able to network. There's going to be door prizes. They'll each participant will get a copy of my book. So it's going to be
And you're saying all of this for $59 if they do it today?
All of that for $59 if they do it today. 4 hours of impactful, compacted, all this information, food, fun, fellowship, and finance. All of that for $59 if they do it today.
Wow. Well, listeners, you're hearing it right here, and all I can say is if that's what she says that she's offering at, then obviously that must be what it is. So just go to the website today, register for it. Hey, the breakfast alone and probably, the first hour, you're going to get the $59 worth.
Oh, yeah. Even at the full rate of $79, it's a bonus. It's huge to get 4 days, 30 years experience. And I have a special guest who's coming, so I'm not even going to give even a hint of who that's going to be. But a special guest will be there dropping off some real bona fide nuggets that's going to help the women propel themselves financially. But even at the $79, it's a bonus. But today, you can't beat $59 for all of that. The book alone is $15. So,
Mm-hmm. Well, I must admit, I'm a little, I don't know if I'm going to say a little jealous, but because you say this is financial fire for females, and we know that males, they work too, and they bring money home from time to time. Sometimes they leave it in other places, but there's a plan in the future for having one of these for males, maybe.
Oh, absolutely, and I also am have on the drawing board doing something for couples. So, we want to light the fire for the females, and then propel everything from there. But absolutely.
What if a male wanted to attend this one?
Well, this is women only. So sorry, fellas. You have to wait for your significant other to come home and tell you about all that she learned.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Okay. They have a saying, there's what we call the golden rule, and that is the person with the goal makes the rules. So in this case, you have the goal, you're making the rules. So this is the F5 Fueling Financial Fire for Females, and at some later date, we're going to have one for males. But from what I'm understanding, this one has been put together around, working with females, because there are a number of things that our guest, Pamela McCoy, wants to share. First of all, she's saying that, you're going to get 30 years of experience. You're going to be privy to 30 years of experience. Plus, you're going to get a copy of her book.
Absolutely.
Now, yeah, maybe it's a part of the tuition that you're paying to attend the workshop and stuff. But the message, just the message alone, I would imagine, would be, well worth it without them walking away with the book. But they get to walk away with the book too, so that's great.
Yeah, we want the women to invest.
Where is this going to be again?
It's going to be June the 23rd, Saturday, June 23rd, from 9 to 1.
From 9 to 1 on 6/21.
6/23, 6/23, June 23rd.
June 23rd, okay.
Yeah, June 23rd. I'll send the flyer to you as well, so if you want to put it on your website or what have you.
Okay, and where will this be?
You want the address? It's going to be in Tampa, Florida.
Yeah.
The address is 7920 Gun Highway, Tampa, Florida.
Okay. Got it.
33626 is the zip code.
Okay. Well, this is good information. We've been talking a lot about, the book. We talked a lot about some of the information that you're going to be sharing and what's going on, and we talked about. But what about the emotional impact, such as peace of mind and feeling secure? How does that play into what you do?
Well, as you were saying earlier, money doesn't have a feeling or an emotional per se, but it evokes a lot of emotion in people. And it's whether you have it or you don't. That part doesn't matter. It evokes an emotion in all of us. And the emotion is very real, depending on what side of the coin that you're on. For those who have money, people who don't, they immediately assume the person with money is happy all the time because they can buy whatever they want, and on and on and on. And in reality, that is so not true in most cases.
Yeah, I've always heard that money doesn't buy peace of mind.
It does not buy peace of mind. It can't buy happiness. You've heard even, some of the stories, you hear of very, very poor people, financially speaking, poor people who say, growing up maybe that they were very financially poor, but they never knew that because they were so rich in other things that was their focal point. And so it all really becomes relative. And that's why I say money evokes emotion in all of us. Whether you have it or you don't, it evokes an emotion in you. And so for me, as you'll see on the back of my book, I'm the MSI, the Mind Shift Initiator. And so in this seminar, as I do in all my seminars, we really try to drill in and really get into your mindset, because that's what drives everything you do is your mindset. And your mindset, of course, is tied directly to your emotion. And so when it comes to finance and money, it really goes back to, and we don't even really think about that, but how you were raised. How was money introduced to you in your childhood? And we don't even really think about it until it's brought to your attention. I just submitted an article for a magazine, Portage, for May. And the article's talking about 5 things I learned from my mother, since it's driven, it's about Mother's Day. And one of the points that I made was that we don't really think about it, but probably some of our earliest introductions to finance and money is when you were sitting in the buggy while your mother was grocery shopping, and how did your mother transact when she got to the register? Did she pay for the groceries with cash? Did she pay with a credit card? Did she have a grocery list, or did she just go in there and start shopping? Did you have that conversation before you got into the store about not picking up things or what? All of those little things that you really didn't think about until you now as an adult start reflecting back. Those were your introductions to finance and money.
Now you mentioned that, and that is so true, because I just, as you were talking, I had flashbacks. I was visualizing when I used to go to the store with my mother. She would give me, and I think this happened with all kids. I don't know, but she would give me. She would have a little short discussion with me before we went into the store. About how I should behave and what I should do and what I shouldn't do. And so that was one of the first things that happened, But once we got into the store, my eyes, as the saying goes, my eyes got big. I always wanted this kind of cereal or that kind of cereal or this. And she would tell me, no, we're going to get this. Or no, we're going to get that. And so she was very firm about how she worked with me, and I had no idea how these things were being paid for or going to get paid for. All I knew as a little kid is I wanted those things. Okay?
Right.
It wasn't until much later that she was then able to kind of talk about it in terms of dollars and cents and the receipt
Mm-hmm.
for the groceries, because that was, I just thought, obviously, you can go in the store and you can buy whatever you want. That was the thing, But she had this one saying that I always remember, and that was, money doesn't grow on trees.
Yes, we all have heard that. Yes. And see, those were our introductions, and though they didn't go in depth to the backstory of those conversations, but that really was kind of budgeting, because she knew what she had in her wallet. She knew, you're not going to embarrass me when I get up here, and so I know if you get that cereal instead of this cereal, I'm going to be over what I have in my wallet. And those guys, so our moms had already figured out all of these things, thus the conversation before we even get in the store, And so as you get older, like you said, now she might go over the receipt with you. As you get older and you can understand money and budgeting and family business versus public business, and that, you get more and more engrossed in the family monies and budget. But meeting you at your level of understanding, you just have these conversations. But those were the subliminal introductions to personal money management, And we didn't even think about those kind of things, but it was,
Yes.
And as I think I shared with you before, whenever I do a seminar, I always interject my father's quote, which is, credit card should be used by time and not money. Lindsay Lofton said that once. He said it 1,000,000 times. And as you said, when I was younger, didn't get it, didn't understand it. Okay, he said it again. He said it. But I knew it was important because he said it a lot, And of course, the irony is now that I grow up and this is what I do for a living or what have you. But again, that was a subliminal message and an understanding of teaching personal money management. Credit card should be used to buy time and not money, And every kid didn't get that at home. And that's why we're at different levels as adults on how we manage our money. Because it goes back to your childhood, like so many other things. Everything isn't, okay, today's lesson is Life 101. That's not how it's taught. We're taught life by observation and just things going on in your environment and around you, and things you pick up and you hear and you observe and all of that. And the same is with money. That's how we learned what we know about money. If collectors called your house every night, you just feel like that's normal. So when you grow up, that's normal. If you didn't grow up like that, you're like, and you go to your friend's house and collectors are calling, oh my gosh, what is that? Why are they calling your house asking for money? You don't get that because that's not your life. That's not how you're raised. You make a debt, you pay a debt. That's how I was raised. So, I didn't get that. Like, what do you mean? Like you're ducking and dodging and not paying what you owe, But it's all relative to how you were raised.
The information that you're sharing is so important. And I say so important because we have listeners from all walks of life. Some that are probably financially secure, some that are probably not financially secure. But the information that you're sharing goes across and should touch both groups, whether they are or are not, because we're talking about how to manage our funds. And our funds are not limitless. More often than not, they are limited.
Right.
And so therefore we need to make good decisions on how we do that. And I think one of the things that helps us make good decisions, I'm just kind of taking us back to one of the earlier statements that you had made, was around goal setting.
Mm-hmm.
So the act of goal setting allows us to be able to figure out what's important, or at least what it is that we want to attain and how to get there. And I never really thought about tying goal setting to, let's say, a spending plan. But I would imagine you need to, it goes hand in hand with your spending plan, I I would say, than
Oh, absolutely.
putting in the spending plan.
And I would say to the listeners too, since you mentioned that they're across the entire spectrum of where they are financially, the haves and the have-nots, if you will, it doesn't matter what your upbringing was or where you are now. It's never too late to fix it. You just got to make up your mind that I'm ready, and be ready to face it, to fix it, and so don't be discouraged if, your credit score isn't where it ought to be or where you want it to be or where you think it should be or what have you. Don't be discouraged. If you're not making the money that you want to make or you think you should be, don't be discouraged. This day forward,
Gotcha.
So.
And while I have you here, and maybe this can be a topic of another show, and that is the credit score.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, there's so much attention being paid to credit scores, and how they impact someone's ability to, buy something at an attractive rate versus maybe an increased rate because of your credit score. Is there something that you can share with our listeners around credit scores, or how to be, more consciously aware of their spending or their debt habits, so that, I don't know, maybe this is something that we can do an entire show on. How does that sound?
Yeah, definitely. We can, credit scores we can talk about for a long, it can be as in depth as you'd like. But just quickly on the surface, the biggest piece of the FICO pie, if you will, the credit score pie, is your pay history. And that's 35% of the pie, if you will. And so what that means in the scheme of things is whatever debt that you have, it's very important that you pay it and you pay it on time. So even if it is the minimum payment, and we'll talk about that another, because we need to pay more than the minimum payment, if at all possible. But if you're not in a position to do that just yet, at a minimum, you need to pay the minimum payment on time. And on time is key because pay history is the biggest piece of the pie. So everybody needs to get paid on time. And then if there's extra monies left over in the coffer, then we can decide who gets extra monies. But everybody that you owe needs to be paid on time, at least their minimum payment. And that'll help improve the score.
Yeah, because I came across I had a client once that was kind of dealing with that as a part of, his emotional and well-being was not where it should be because he had fallen into arrears in some payments or whatever, and so then that led to some family disputes, and it just got all out of whack.
Right.
You just use the term out of whack, but it got that way because of him, or probably the entire family, him and his spouse, not being aware of the whole money management piece.
Right.
So I thank you for sharing just that piece. That is, if you owe, pay on time, and try as best as you can to pay above the minimum.
Yes. Yes. And that there is no quick fixes. I mean, if you have, like you said, the delinquencies or, bumps in the road, you didn't get there overnight. Mm-hmm. So rest assured you won't clear it up overnight. So you got to be in it for the long haul. And, so when you hear the fix it quicks and all of those, as grandmama would say, it's a scheme, If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So the only legitimate ways to fix bad credit is time and money. Meaning start paying the people on time and paying the money that you owe, which means the money's got to come from somewhere, to start paying, above and beyond what you owe in terms of the minimum payments. And if you got back payments, things are delinquent, trying to catch things up and, things like that. But it's no quick fix.
Gotcha. Well, Our time is just about up. Is there any other, let's say, tidbits or words of wisdom that you'd like to share? And lastly, tell us one more time about your upcoming F5 seminar.
Tidbits, if they have questions, please reach out to me through the website. You can contact me. All my contact information would be there. Also through the website, the F5. I need all of the female listeners who are in the local area. Please join me for the F5, Fueling Financial Fire for Female. It's going to be an excellent seminar on fire for us females. We're going to have a wonderful half day, bonding, finance, food, fellowship, money, door prizes, experience, learn how to manage our money. We're going to have an awesome half a day. So I need all these financial women, these females, come out and join us. And today, $59, can't beat it. So I need you to register today because it goes away. $69, $79, still not bad. Still a value add to your life. I need all the women to just invest in you. Come on, ladies. It's time to invest in you. Don't let this pass you by. Today is the day. $59, F5, Fuel Your Financial Fire for Females. www.bonafidecc.com. Pamela McCoy.
Well, thank you very, very much. I really appreciate the time that you spend and share. Well, let me say this. You always, whenever you're on the show, you're always sharing some great information with us. And so today was no exception. However, I'm going to say today, there seems to have been even more because you have the seminar coming up, and so there's some extra tidbits that people will have access to. But let me just say thank you very much, Pamela. I really appreciate it, and looking forward to the next time we get a chance to talk.
All righty. Thank you so much for having me.
Can we tell people in advance that we're going to be talking about credit scores and how to deal with that, or as a part of the next show?
That works. That'll be fine. Absolutely.
Okay. So you heard that, listeners. You heard it. We always wonder and trying to figure out about these credit scores and what to do about them. Well, in a couple of months, and I have to say it this way, in a couple of months when Pamela McCoy is back, she's going to shed some light, or she's going to help clarify what sometimes is a muddy, topic around credit scores. So, again, thank you so much, Pamela, for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful, wonderful seminar and workshop. Ladies, get out there and sign up and go to that workshop.
Thanks so much, Dr. Hank.
Thank you, and have an EI day, as always.
All righty, you too. God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio.